This episode is sponsored by M5 and Associates, motivated, financially independent, victorious entrepreneurs. Hey, look, guys, my family and I are on a mission to help 500 families by the end of the year to get on track financially. How are we doing this? We're focused on the 5 areas that we struggle with the most. These are also 5 areas that I find that most people are struggling with today. Number one is budgeting. Budgeting is simply having a plan for your money. And if I'm honest, we would get paid, we would have absolutely no plan. And guess what? Just as soon as we got paid, we would be broke again. Number two is helping families eliminate your bad debt. It is so easy to get into debt, it is super hard to get out of it. And oftentimes it does require some assistance. The third thing that we're focused on helping families with is your credit. Hey guys, look, I once heard someone say that it is easier to accumulate $100,000 in credit than it is to save $100,000, right? Which was a game changer. Number four is investments. I know that everybody wants to be financially independent. Oftentimes, we just have no idea what it takes to really get there. And number five is life insurance. And look, though this is number five, by no means is it the least important. In our communities, we're either uninsured or we're underinsured. And oftentimes, for the people that are insured, we just really don't understand how it works. Allow my family and our team to help you and your family get on track financially. Hey guys, look, thank you so much again for tuning in. Let's get right to the video. What's going on, guys? Hey, look, thank y'all so much for tuning in to M5, the Family Hustle. I'm your boy, Tremaine McTiller, aka Mr. M5, Mr. Motivated, Financially Independent, Victorious Entrepreneur. Okay. Hey, guys, look, we've been talking about doing this podcast forever,
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 ever.
forever,
Forever, ever.
forever, ever. Okay. And look, I am joined by my amazing co-host, right? The one, the only, the amazing, beautiful,
Felicia
courageous,
McTiller,
strong. Y'all heard it.
aka Mrs. M5.
Mrs. M5, that's right.
Y'all have to forgive me, work with me. I'm kind of getting over a cold. My voice still a little raspy.
A little raspy, but
It's
I
just a
like it
little
though. Y'all think
raspy.
it's a little sexy a
But a
little
little
bit?
cough come through there too.
A little cough
It
does
wasn't
come with
COVID.
it.
I did do my COVID test. It was negative.
Hmm.
Just a little cold.
Are you sure it was negative?
I'm sure it was negative. I know how to read. I've read the signs very well.
Oh, wow. My bad. I'm
I
sorry,
mean, like
homie.
you asked me if I'm sure it was negative. Yeah.
My bad,
I took
little
a picture
homie.
of it. You want to see it?
Nah, nah. Hey, I trust you, man. Just as long as I don't get sick again
Again.
behind you.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So, look, guys. Today we have an amazing episode because I get the pleasure and the honor after almost 16 years of interviewing this amazing, wonderful woman sitting next to me. Right.
Wow.
Because she has such an amazing story, and I find myself honestly like looking at her often, if I'm just being honest, and just thinking about how amazing she really is. And I don't think that the story, I mean, above and beyond just being a wife, a mom, a great friend, she is an amazing person inside and out. So, what we hope to do today with this interview is to inspire some of you guys that may be going through your own journey. And, it may be bumpy, it may seem really turbulent right now, right? But that's life sometimes. But sometimes hearing from somebody and how they've been able to,
Weather
overcome
the storm.
obstacles and absolutely weather the storm, man, oftentimes is inspirational, right? So this woman sitting to my left, guys, is one of, if not the most inspiring woman I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. And it is such an honor of mine to say that I am her husband. Okay.
I feel like it's a lot of pressure right now.
Well, I mean, hey, look, that's God pressure, though. Okay. That's God
Golly,
pressure.
you landing on thick, Lord.
No, no, no. Well, hey, not only is she a mom, right? Not only is she a wife, she's also a four-time cancer survivor, and we're going to talk about that today. She's also an aspiring author, right? Because you can't go through cancer, four times and not write a book about it, okay? And she's in the process as well of starting a nonprofit, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, right? So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce again the amazing, awesome, strong, beautiful, all that stuff, Felicia McTiller, aka Mrs. M5.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow. Um, I'm definitely over here cheesing. It's always an honor and very humbling for me to hear, what other people think about me, or kind of
Mm-hmm.
like just how you're describing me is like, listening to it like, man, she's dope.
She is dope.
But I think that sometimes when we're living in it, we don't take a step back to really, see the fullness, I guess, of what God is doing. So I do thank you for, you know, having me as a guest on our podcast.
Having you as a guest on
uh,
our
yes,
podcast.
having
That's
me as a
right.
guest.
That's
So
right.
thank
That's
you,
right.
thank you. It's an honor and it's a pleasure to be here.
Because you've
Really and
traveled, because you've
truly,
traveled a long way,
all the way from my bedroom.
all the way from your bedroom.
Yep.
Okay,
Now
okay.
we done did some traveling now, but for this particular interview, I came all the way down the hallway from my bedroom to
So let's get right
be
into it,
here.
right? Because the people need to know Felicia McTiller, aka Mrs. M5, aka Flip, right? AKA Fee,
Dang, you
right?
went to the
Absolutely. We're
throwback.
going way back. We're going way, way, way
Wow.
back, right? So look, and and I don't want to take it all away from you, right? So tell the people, who you are, where you from, right? Let's get into it.
um, so I'm Felicia. I'm not Felicia, right? So I guess my mom was a little,
A little
you know what I'm
bougie
saying, bougie
down,
with it,
down there
right?
in
But
Miami.
I'm from Miami, so Felicia is the root Felice comes from Latin, right? Meaning happy or gifted one. And I don't know if my mom knew that's who I was, or I just kind of grew into my name, but that's pretty much what I've been. Um, Happy all the time.
All the time.
um, I would have to say that I am gifted. When I was in grade school, I was in gifted classes, honors classes. Graduated from Miami Central with honors. I was in the top 10% of my graduating class. So
How many people was in that class?
I don't remember.
I mean, because that matters. If it was only like 10 people
Nah,
graduating,
Tremaine, it was more than 10
I
people.
mean, I know it was more than 10,
You
but how
trying to
many
play me
people
right
was it? I'm
now.
not trying to play
You
you.
trying to play
I'm
me
just
right now.
saying. I mean,
So
just
this what I need you guys to do. If I got any of class of 99 Central Rockets watching this video, I need y'all to tap in and let him know how many people was in our graduating classes. I do not remember. It's been a lot of chemo and
I'm
all
just
that
saying,
stuff.
like, if
So
it was like 2,000 or 3,000 people, of course, the top 10 is like, I mean, look,
So class of 99, I need y'all to tap in. Miami Central High School, class of 99. I need y'all to let us know how many people were in our graduating class.
hey, let us know. Let us know. Not class of 99.
Class of 1999, right? But anyway, yeah, I grew up there in Miami. I did not grow up in the pretty Miami that you guys see on
The
TV.
South Beach.
Unless you watching First 48, right? I grew up kind of like in that area, not
Right down
far
the
from the
street from the
Beans.
Beans.
Yep. So my grandmother has lived on the other side of the bridge for over 50 something years. So that's definitely all of my life.
Y'all that are from that area, man, y'all know about the
The
ketchup and
ketchup and
mustard
mustard
house,
house.
right?
She's like
Right
right down the
there.
street from we. As a matter of fact, if you look out her front door and look to the left, you can see the ketchup and mustard house. That's where we at.
All right, so you a real homegirl.
I'm a real homegirl.
Okay.
I am. Uh, like you said, mother. We have three amazing kids. I'm your wife, right? Your awesome, beautiful wife. I am a daughter. My relationship, with my mom has kind of evolved. So I feel like I'm raising my mom right now. I think I think that's a good podcast topic, right?
Okay.
Like raising the parents. Um, Sister, I'm still raising her too, because that girl definitely don't listen. Um, but I'm me, right? You said my nickname. Everybody growing up knew me as Flip. I even had teachers at school that called me Flip because
So
that
how did
was
you get
just
that nickname?
because when I was a
Because when
baby and
teachers
when I
call you
was,
that, like it's real.
it always stuck. Like classmates call me Flip, like everybody call me Flip. It always stuck. When I was younger, when I was a baby, I was very active.
Hmm.
So I did a lot of flipping and crawling and that kind of stuff. And there's actually a picture. You probably seen it before at my grandmother's house with me learning how to walk, but I had a cast on my arm
I've seen that picture.
because I had climbed out of the crib, like I climbed to the top of the crib, the little net, the old school cribs. This is what they tell me anyway, because I don't remember. But they said I climbed up the crib and I flipped over. When I flipped out of it, I broke my arm. So it's been flipped since then.
Which arm was it?
It was my right arm
I,
actually.
I don't really think about that. Like you probably don't have a strong right hook, then, do you?
I do. I've never been in a fight, but don't try me.
So look, tell us, man. I mean, what was life like growing up in the 305?
I was a good kid. Like I didn't personally get into trouble, but we had fun. I mean, of course, like there was I mean, it was the hood. You had violence and you had gangs and drugs and all of that stuff. But, me and my cousins and my sisters, we didn't really get caught up in that. We didn't partake in that.
So did you actually grow up like, I mean, like witnessing violence and drugs and stuff like that? I
No,
mean,
not necessarily. I mean, like we've always lived in a hood, but I've never like personally seen any of that kind of stuff. I mean, you know who people are, like you know who the dope boys are. You know what I'm saying? Like
hmm,
that kind of stuff. But everybody just, we over here playing or whatever,
were
and
you
they over
friends
there
with
doing
Trick
them.
Daddy?
Was I friends with Trick Daddy? No. Trick Daddy is older than me, but no, I did not know him growing up. But I do have some relatives that are friends with his wife, Joy. So,
Okay, that's what's up. That's what's up.
yeah.
Right. So, right down the street from the Beans. So not quite the Miami that most people think about, right?
Yeah.
When you're talking to people that visit Miami, it's always,
South
South
Beach.
Beach, Ocean Ave,
So if
Biscayne.
you're from Miami, like you know that we didn't go to South Beach until like Memorial Day weekend. Because other than that, if you were from Miami and you was going to the beach, you was going to Hollover.
Mm.
We was hanging out at like Hollover and stuff like
Now was
that. That
Hollover
was
like the Black Beach?
basically that's where the black people would, what I'm saying, go for
Why didn't
picnics.
y'all go to South Beach?
First of all, it's always been expensive.
Okay.
But I mean, we just did not go to South Beach unless it was the events and stuff. So like Miami is, even back in the day, Miami was very segregated. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you got Little Haiti, you got Little Havana, you got Hialeah, you got Miramar, and you got different people that live in those different sections. So the black people just went to Hollover. Like South Beach was more for white people, basically.
So look, she just put me on something new, guys. So I often like to claim Miami a little bit because I went down there when I was 19, made a family and things like that, right? So for a number of years, but today I just learned something new because whenever I talked about going to the beach, especially before I knew that there were other beaches outside of South Beach, that's where I went.
Or
Right? I
people,
hung out on South Beach.
or we used to go to Crandon. But I didn't like Crandon Beach because all the seaweed in the
Hmm.
water. So it was all over for us. I mean, my memories of going to the beach when I was younger or going with my mom has always been Hollover Beach. I don't think that I went to South Beach until I was an adult or at least old enough to go and party for like Memorial Day weekend and stuff like that.
I got you, got you, got you.
Yeah.
So look, let me ask you a question really quick, right? So, for you all that don't know, and probably most people watching this podcast don't, Felicia and I will celebrate 16 years in
Whoop,
July.
whoop.
Okay, we dated for 2.5 months before we got married. Prior to getting married, this young lady was, doing her thing, living life, hanging out, right?
Yep.
Club iguanas. What were the other
Yep.
ones?
Bermuda.
Bermuda, right?
Yep.
So
Burning
Bermuda,
it up, baby.
burning it up, right?
Yep.
So she went from, doing your thing to being married with children, because because I had 2 kids. I know there's a lot of women out there like, yeah, I would never, and I think you said
No,
this
yep,
too.
that was
I
me.
never marry a guy with
Yep,
kids, and
I
then you
said
married
it.
a guy,
I said
not
it,
with one, but
but
two
two of them.
kids, right?
Yeah, I said it. I said I would never marry nobody with no kids. Like,
So, so let's kind of talk about that really quick. Like, how did you make that? First of all, how did you make the decision to even marry me? Because when I asked you, like, I don't know if I really thought that you were going to say
so
yes.
you was testing me.
I mean, we were having a conversation.
So we here almost 16 years later on like a test, like a dare kind of like, let me see what she gonna
Well,
say
not
type of
no,
deal.
no, no, not even a dare, because I didn't dare you to marry me.
But
I
like in the
mean,
back of your head, it was kind of like let me try her, let me see what she gonna say type
well,
of
why
deal.
would I have thought you would have said yes in 2.5 months? You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Clearly you didn't know me.
why would I thought you would have said yes?
Clearly.
I mean, obviously,
You know what that made me think? I've never thought about this before, but I think that I do have a bit of an impulsive personality. I will pick up and
well,
leave. I will just do stuff like spontaneously.
and the reason why I'm asking though, because I've heard you say 2 things in the past. One, you never really anticipated on getting married,
I did not.
and you didn't, you wouldn't marry a guy or be with a guy that had children,
Not my preference.
not your preference. And I don't think you ever really just envision yourself even having a family.
I did not.
Right. So yeah, I mean, so there's a lot to unpack there. So how do we go from, not, no kids, no family, no marriage to boom, just like
All
that,
of that
all of that
in 2.5 months.
in two and a half months.
Because I would say that one thing is our plan is not God's plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like we tell God what we want to do, and like basically He laughed at us. And I
Mm.
feel like that's what He did. Like He laughed in my face because I never, not that I didn't want to get married, I just kind of never saw it, I guess.
Got you.
Like my immediate family was, I mean, the ladies that raised me were single women, you know what I'm saying, for the most part. So I wasn't opposed to having a partner, or
Mm-hmm.
even a life partner, but I guess I just did not envision the marriage. And a lot of that had to do with, of course, like me going through so much and chemo and chemo tears up your body. Then I've had a lot of surgeries, so you got all the scars and stuff. So I think just kind of not knowing my self-worth at the time, maybe because I was super young. You know what I'm saying? I I mean, we when we met, I was like 4 or 5 years out of having had any type of treatment and stuff like that. So that had something to do with it.
Mm.
I never wanted. I always said that I never wanted to have kids, but the truth was I was afraid of having children because what if my child, like what if I passed down the cancer that I had to my child?
Was that really always a concern?
Absolutely.
So it wasn't that you didn't want to have kids, you were just afraid
I
of
was
what.
absolutely.
Wow. So before we get in that, right, because that's a whole nother that's a whole nother little piece there. But let's talk about the marriage part right quick
Mhm.
because, and I don't know if I've ever heard you, really talk about, the scars and everything that you've gone through kind of having an impact on your self-image.
Well, because you have to remember, I think that you've heard me say before that for years, I never wore dresses. I
Mm-hmm.
never wore shorts. You know what I'm saying? I never would wear anything that would show my legs. So when I was heavy in the clubbing, I may have on a little shirt, but my whole bottom was covered up.
So so do you feel like did you feel like maybe you wasn't marriage material or wifey material?
I think so. I mean, I was young. And I just had never processed that because again, like, well, it may be because I started going through chemo so young. I was 14 when I was first diagnosed. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? So I never had like that dating experience. Like people start dating in middle school.
I mean, but I wasn't the first guy you dated though.
You were not, but by the time I started dating guys, I had already been going through chemo and stuff.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I think that you have those dates and kiddie relationships and stuff like that when you're in middle school and then high school. Like, I don't even think I dated anybody in high school because in high school I was like fresh off of chemo.
You didn't date like Jermaine in high school?
No, I was out of school. He was still in high school, but I was out of school by the
Oh, you
time
was a
I
cougar.
brown.
I didn't know that. So
I was out of high school by the time I met him. He was a senior, but I had already graduated.
okay, I got you. I got you. So that night when we were walking on Hollywood Beach and I asked you to marry me, I mean, like how like how did you process and decide to do it like with such, you know,
Because I think in a very short amount of time, you made a big impact.
mm,
I feel like in a small amount of time, you saw me like better than I could see myself. You know what I'm
wow.
saying? Like listening to you do the introduction, it is very humbling when you hear how people see you. You
And I'm
know,
gonna be honest, like I really feel like I could have done more justice even on the introduction because I think that your level of dopeness is almost impossible to even just describe. But we're gonna try to get into some of this a little bit. So when I asked you to marry me, it was easy because you felt like I'd seen you for who you
yes, I feel like
maybe like
nothing.
past the scars and
Yes,
the history.
Yes, I feel like you saw me beyond the scars, beyond the history. You know what I'm saying? Beyond the chemo. I I feel like I was very um I definitely wasn't as mature as I am now,
Hmm.
but I feel like you could help me. Like we could help each other. You
So
know what I'm
now,
saying? Like we could grow. Like I really felt like we could grow together.
now I'm gonna tell you what's really interesting though, because at no point in the history of us have I ever thought that you lacked um, confidence or anything for that matter. Like, I mean, just thinking about it right now, like when I met you, I mean, one, I mean, you're obviously a very, attractive, beautiful woman, and you've
Thank
always
you.
been. I mean, everything about you, I always felt like was like on par. Like you always kept your hair nice until we got married. No, I'm kidding. I'm
I
joking.
know he did not.
I'm joking, but I mean, well, look, when you get married, you see different sides. You see different sides of people. So when we met, like, I mean, you always dressed really nice. You were always well, put together.
But
You
that
didn't
doesn't
carry
mean,
yourself like,
yeah, but that doesn't, I mean, just because you're put together don't mean like your confidence is super high. Like a part of putting yourself together is to, feel better. Like when I was on chemo, I think I kind of got into makeup and stuff
mm-hmm,
when I was on chemo. I don't know, like I think it was around Christmas and somebody came through. They always used to donate stuff for the kids and on the cancer unit and stuff like that. So I picked out some makeup one year
got
and
you.
I literally would be in the hospital like doing my makeup. Now it was like eyeshadow and you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. But for me, like if I look better, then I feel better.
Got you.
So the confidence is not, I mean, it's not because I was dressed nice or had my hair done. You know what I'm saying? Like that was like look good so you can feel good. I mean, plus, we met at work. So I was always gonna show up at work. I mean, I was not only representing myself, but my mama worked there.
Got you. Got you.
So yeah, I mean, but I think my point was, and I think a lot of women can attest to this, like just because you're put together on the outside does not mean that you're fully confident on the inside.
That's a whole word
Yeah.
right there. but I can definitely see that. Now, not in you per se, but I definitely know people that, look like they got it,
They look amazing.
but inside really
A
dealing with some
mess.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how many scars do you have?
I've never counted them, but I have quite a few scars like in my chest area, and they're smaller from where I used to have to get different ports
Mm-hmm.
to get the chemo. So I always had a port or a catheter or something like that. I've had surgery on my right leg probably about um maybe about 4 or 5 times,
Wow.
maybe six if I'm including the knee replacement that I
Mm-hmm.
had. But they always go in the same spot for that. So that is it's a big scar though. It's like from my mid thigh
We're gonna put a
all the
picture
way
of it up.
down. Yeah, we'll put a picture up. And then I have oh well, I have scars on my back on my left and my right side from when I had surgery on my lungs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the scars where they cut me, and then of course there's the little holes where the chest tubes were. And then I have a scar up the back of my left thigh from when I had surgery on my hamstring.
Mm.
I also have scars on both of my hips because at some point when they would remove the material out of my leg, they would use bone from my hip to like pack it in to try to
Mm-hmm.
make everything fuse together.
Got you.
So they've done that on my left hip and my right hip.
So let's kind of back it up a little bit, right? So you've mentioned a few times now that you're a cancer survivor. At what age were you when you were first diagnosed, and what type of cancer was it?
So my first diagnosis was I think it was like in 1994. I was around 14 because this was the summer between seventh grade and eighth grade.
Mm.
This is the summer between seventh grade and eighth grade. So I was about 14, and I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is a very rare bone cancer, but it is commonly found in adolescents.
Got you. Got you. So age 14,
Hmm.
diagnosed with osteosarcoma,
Hmm.
right? When you were told that you had cancer, do you remember what that felt like?
Um, So I think I probably was more so feeding off of my family's emotions because at 14, like you don't really know and understand what cancer is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know and understand the effects. Like you don't know that, that's a big scary word at
Got you.
14. Like I couldn't process it like that at the time. But I could remember like over the summer, hanging out at my grandmother's house, playing and stuff like that. But I would always have like some pain. And I would complain to my mom, my leg is hurting. And she'll be like, girl, you playing too much, I mean, the same stuff that I tell my kids today, honestly, right? You just need to sit down somewhere, put some ice on it. You know what I'm saying?
So
Go get the heating pad,
Robitussin.
put some Robitussin on it, okay? You're going to be all right. Just go get the heating pad. And one day, we were, I guess, at my grandmother's house over the weekend, and my mom came by. She was headed to work, so she came, just to sit with us for a little bit before she got to work. And I saw her car pull up, and I ran outside to greet her. And in running outside, I actually hit my right leg on the bumper of my grandmother's car. And when I hit my leg on the bumper, I just kind of immediately went down in pain. Like I was just in so much pain. And so my mom worked at the hospital. So since she was on her way to work, she just took me with her.
Got you.
And they did an x-ray. And when they did the x-ray, they saw that I had a hairline fracture because the tumor had weakened the bone
Mm.
right there. So when I bumped my leg, I mean, for anybody else, it wouldn't have affected them. But because it was weak, because of the tumor, there was a fracture there.
So just excruciating pain.
Yep.
Mom rushes you to the
Rushed me to the
hospital.
hospital. They do the X-ray. At this time, we don't know what it is
Hmm.
because you have cancerous tumors and you have non-cancerous tumors. So they cast my leg up immediately, from the tip of my toes all the way to up my butt. Like it was literally all the way up the back of my butt. So I couldn't like sit down and take a bath for a very long time.
Mm.
Had to get creative because I had to get in the bathtub. Um, but yeah, we went back. No, actually, I remember going to do a biopsy, and they didn't even take the cast off to do the biopsy. They actually cut a hole, like cut a window in the cast, and did the biopsy, and put the window back in, and ace bandaged it for it to stay intact. And they did that, and I don't know how long it was later. Like I don't know what the time difference was, but I do remember being in a wheelchair, going to the doctor's office, and I was kind of sitting like almost with my back turned to where the doctor was talking to. I remember my mom, my auntie that we call Mama Lou, and I don't know if my grandma or Auntie Jan was there. I'm pretty sure they probably was, but all I remember is my auntie Mama Lou fainting.
Wow.
And then, they're like crying and stuff, and like I'm not understanding any of this
So you
stuff
just you just
basically.
looking at them like
I'm
they
like,
tripping.
what the world y'all got going on back there? Yeah. So, the doctor told my mom that I had bone cancer and it was one of the worst types of cancers that, you can have. And, he went into more detail with them. I don't really remember all of that. But in my head, I just knew that I was like, okay, what we got to do? Like, okay, what do I need to do? um
So
to
like
fix this.
so for you that there was never any real fear.
Mm-mm.
It
I
was
was
just like, okay, we got a problem.
What's the solution?
What's the solution?
Yep.
I think that that's huge, man, at 14 years old.
Yep.
And though I can understand not fully knowing a lot about cancer, but at the age of 14, by then you've also learned what fear is.
Of
And when you
course.
see other people fainting around you
You're
and
like,
going
what the
hysterical, like
world?
anybody would be like,
Yeah.
even if you wasn't afraid before, anybody probably would instantly be, terrified now because Mama Lou just hit the ground, like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Right. But for you, it was like, bet, like, how do we fix this now?
Yep.
I think that that's huge. So, you said something earlier about not, really maybe having that confidence within yourself. But I think that it takes a lot for anybody to
Mhm.
to to get such um grim news and be able to remain like optimistic about that. Right. So even before you probably understood that you were like really dope, like you were dope.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah, like, yo, you got cancer. Oh, okay. How do we fix it?
Yeah.
Clean up on aisle 6, please. Can somebody come get Mama Lou? Like she on the ground.
Yeah.
She tripping, right? Hey, doc, how do we fix this? Right? I mean, what do I have to do? All right. So that began your journey in battling cancer, right?
Yes,
So
that was the beginning.
so you had to have your knee replaced.
Yeah, that came later on, but yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
What came first? What was that like? That whole process like?
So that process was a lot. At the time, the chemotherapy that I received was very aggressive
Mm-hmm.
because it was a very aggressive form of cancer. So obviously at some point I would have to have surgery, but they could not do the surgery because like going in there would risk the cancer spreading.
So, and from what I understand, when you're diagnosed with cancer, what the oncologist team would like to do first is treat with the chemo
Yes.
to minimize
They would
the
like to
tumor.
kill. Yep. So they will like the chemotherapy is to like kill as many of the tumor cells as possible,
Mm-hmm.
especially the ones that may be, free, just kind of roaming around. Obviously, they're not as strong as when they get clustered together.
Okay.
So they want to kill as many free roaming cells as possible. They want to kill the cancer. They want to weaken it as much as possible before there's surgery to do any removal.
So about how many rounds of the chemo did you do
Before I
before the
had
surgery?
surgery, I want to say that I probably had like 10, 11, 12 rounds of chemo before surgery.
Wow. 10 rounds of chemo before surgery.
Yep,
You lost your hair?
absolutely.
Like, how long did it take before you lost your hair?
I probably lost my hair after like the second round of chemo. Yeah, it's like it's almost instantaneous. It's so weird how, um, I mean, it's really vivid, but your hair just like like it, you can just pull it right from your scalp
Right out of your
and it
head.
doesn't hurt. So I can remember washing my hair out in my grandmother's kitchen sink, and some of them be, you have some little stragglers. So I think that a large part of my healing was laughter
Mm-hmm.
and joking. So my mom used to call me Tales from the Crypt. I don't know if y'all remember that, the little crypt keeper that had like them one, two
Mom
little
used to
strings of
call you
hair.
Tales from the
Yeah,
Crib.
like we used to get it in. Okay, we used to get it in.
So you losing your hair, you doing chemo.
I mean, that was kind of
Mama
like,
Lou done hit the ground and mom's cracking
oh
jokes.
yeah, that was a big part of like
The
healing,
healing
is being
process.
able to still laugh and joke. But yeah,
So how did you? I mean, because you had, for a lot of women, for I guess a lot of people, period, their hair is like their pride and joy.
yeah.
I mean, how did you feel, when you were washing your hair out? And even though mom was joking, like, did you ever feel like you had just lost something? Like, did it become real at that moment, or was it like,
Um, so at 14, no. And I think that God kind of was preparing me because I ain't really never had that much hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never had like hair flowing down my back. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I just ain't never had no hair like that.
so that's the reason why you don't have a real attachment to your hair? Because this girl would
Well,
change her hair
yeah.
boom, like that, like it's nothing. So it don't even bother me no more. Like whatever she do with her hair is what she do because
Yeah. So
there's no
I
attachment
maybe
there.
the detachment came very early because the second time I went through chemo, it was hard though. Like losing my hair was hard.
So you lost your hair. Did you lose like your
You lose your
eyebrows and
hair,
stuff?
you lose your eyebrows, you lose your eyelashes, you lose every part of your body that have hair is gone. So you don't need a Brazilian wax. You don't need to shave under your arms. You don't need to shave your legs. Like you don't need to shave nothing. You ain't
Wow.
got no hair nowhere, like a bald headed rat.
Like a baby's bottom.
That's a better description.
A bald
And
headed
then a bald
rat.
headed rat.
That's
The
okay.
comedy, I'm telling you,
I
like that's.
got you. That's why we
But
here.
yeah, a baby's bottom, smooth like a baby's
So
bottom.
so you lose your hair. You do the 10 to 12 rounds of chemo, and then you're under the knife doing surgery.
Yep.
Let me ask you, those 10 to 12 rounds of chemo, like were they tough?
Yes. I lost a ton of weight. You have no appetite. The smells, even things that you once like love, the smell of it like literally turns your stomach. Like, and I used to have to get inpatient chemo. So you'll get admitted into the hospital and you'll be there for like 4, 5, 6 days or whatever. Then you may go home for
Wow.
like 2 or 3 days and then you come back.
So you
So
spent like a lot of your life in the hospital.
I very
Your
much
your
so
your
did.
young adult life.
Between the hospital and the clinic. Like, I mean, and I had an amazing oncology staff. Like, I feel like the children's oncology clinic there was like world class. It was
Where's there?
amazing. Huh?
Where's there?
At Jackson Memorial Hospital.
Okay.
Right? At the time the clinic was 5C. I'll never
Okay.
forget it, okay? Dr. Toledano was my doctor at one time. Dr. Davis was my doctor at one time. So, but the staff there was just amazing. So, I mean, you kind of get into a routine. So, like, that you have to go and get your levels checked.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how your levels are, you get admitted for chemo. If your levels are not high enough, and when I say your levels, like your white blood count, because that's your ability to fight off infection.
Mm.
So if your white blood counts are not high enough, they're not going to admit the chemo because the chemo is going to knock it down even more, right?
Got you.
When I first started chemo, I had braces,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to get my braces removed because my gums would swell up really bad, and then the braces would like be cutting my gums, and then like you get infections. So
So you just had it real hard.
it
I'm
was
battling cancer. I'm losing my hair. My braces cutting into my gums.
Oh, not to mention like my hands are still, you know what I'm saying, like super dry now, a little bit better, but man, my hands would just get so dry to where like my skin would just crack open.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to like slather my hands with Aquaphor and like put gloves on it.
So now, were you battling the cancer and the surgeries and stuff like from 14 to 15? Like, at what point was that first like
Yes.
onset of
So
cancer kind of over with?
it was from about 14 to 15.
Mm-hmm.
By the time, so this was the summer between seventh grade and eighth grade.
Mm-hmm.
So eighth grade, I did homeschool.
Okay.
So I still had to get my education while I was going through all that stuff too. Thank you. Okay. So I did homeschool for eighth grade. So I was finished with chemo. I was finished with surgery by the time ninth grade started. So I ended up going to Miami Central because it was a magnet. They had a magnet program there, so I kind of got in on the magnet side. And I guess we had went to the school for something over the summer, and I saw one person that I knew.
Mm.
And I begged my mom to let me go to that school because I know one person. Like at least I'm gonna know somebody, right? And that's what we did. So I finished my whole ninth through 12th grade. But I was on crutches the whole time because there's a healing process.
Yeah, yeah. Hold on a second, right?
Oh, slow
I
me
mean,
down. Okay,
yeah. I mean, you're
rewind,
moving a little
rewind. I'm
fast. You're moving a
sorry.
little fast,
I'm
right?
sorry. I'm sorry.
So we do the chemo, we lose our hair, right? The tumor shrinks some, correct?
Mhm. Mhm.
Now we go under the knife. We have the knee replacement and all of that, right?
We didn't have a knee replacement yet. At
Okay.
that time, we still hadn't had a knee replacement. At that time, we had what's called a limb salvage procedure.
A limb salvage procedure.
Yep. So my mom had to sign a waiver that in the event that they went inside and it was too much or too much damage or the cancer had spread too much, that she had to give them permission to amputate at that time
Mm.
without having to go back and
Talk to
talk to
her.
her. So she had to give permission to essentially amputate my leg depending on
How bad it
what was
was, the
going on in
severity.
there. Yeah. So the first surgery, I was told because I was asleep, was about 13 hours. It was so long because you have to go through all the layers of skin and tissue and all of that stuff, and they're kind of like testing each layer as they go to just kind of see, I guess what else they need to do or how far it's gone. So I had to, I ended up getting a skin graft also.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about that in the scars, but I ended up getting a skin graft also.
Okay. So the first procedure is just a limb salvage procedure.
So the first
They're
procedure
cleaning stuff
was,
out.
yep. So the first procedure, what they actually did was, they removed the piece of the bone that had the tumor, the piece of
Mm-hmm.
my bone that had the tumor, and they put bone from a cadaver. Right. So when you pass away and you donate your body to science, then there's bones that can be used. So it
Okay.
was a human, bone, along with like rods and plates and
You sure it
stuff.
was human?
I'm assuming so.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you're a real
I
beast
mean, that's
sometimes. So,
real.
you
I
know,
mean, that was the first one. I done had plenty of them since then, so that's not even the same one anymore.
okay.
But yes, they replaced, that piece of tibia. So that was at that point is when they also had to go in my hip to kind of shave the hip bone to get some of my own bone fragments to put between the spaces of what they put in there hoping that it would just fuse together seamlessly.
So throughout this year time frame that you're going through this, what is one thing that you remember that really just kind of brought you joy?
Um, Eating the stuff that I wanted to eat.
Like,
I love seafood. Like I remember one time my mom had brought the deep fryer into the hospital room. Because what happens is like you can have a taste for something and like she'll leave and go and get it, and by the time she come back, I don't want it no more.
mm,
So she got tired of me tricking her and playing with her money like that. So she like smuggled all this stuff into the hospital room. Like you're not supposed to be deep frying no chicken and no shrimp and stuff like that in the hospital
mom was
room.
deep frying chicken and shrimp
And was
and probably conch too.
and we ate very good that day.
Mm. She,
Cause I would ask for stuff and people would go and get it or they'll, bring it. And then by the time they get there, like I'm nauseous, you know what I'm saying? I can't eat it, I don't want it. Like it was hard to eat, period. I know
gotcha.
that like the people that brought around the lunch or the breakfast trays or whatever, they knew not to bring my tray inside. Just sit it outside and my mama go and pick off whatever she think I may want and bring it in. But they couldn't bring the whole tray because you're so sensitive to smell.
So I know when you're young and you're battling cancer, like you have a lot of organizations out there that are in place to,
Hmm.
kind of help the children and also the family and the parents deal with
Hmm.
that. What was the organization that you kind of was
So
associated with?
we did Make a Wish.
Okay.
So the Make a Wish Foundation asked me, what I wanted to do, and my wish was to go on a cruise. So we did a 7-day cruise to like some of the Caribbean, and it was me, my mom, my sister, and my grandmother,
Okay.
and we went on a cruise for it was like a 7-day cruise.
To to the Caribbeans.
Yep. So I think we went to like Saint Martin, Saint Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah, different little islands in the Caribbean.
So do you feel like, the Make a Wish and the other foundations like really helped you throughout that
I
process?
feel like they do because I mean, as a kid, you can feel so isolated.
Mm-hmm.
While your friends are going to 8th grade and they're dating and they're getting ready for the prom and you know what I'm saying, like hanging out. That was not my life. That was not my testimony. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't do any of that stuff.
Mm.
So the Make a Wish was amazing because, it kind of gave you some of that normalcy. I also remember they had rock camp. So reaching out to
Okay.
cancer kids, it's a camp. So I did rock camp, you know what I'm saying, one time where you kind of just go with, people that you can relate to.
Mm.
And I can't remember where it was, but I do remember, you know what I'm saying, that was quite an experience.
Now, was that the camp or was that the organization that was inviting you to the Christmas
No,
parties and
that was
stuff?
actually so the child life specialist from the clinic,
Mm-hmm.
Letitia, they had, Christmas parties and stuff like that. So she used the child life specialist from the clinic would invite me to the Christmas parties and
Okay.
stuff like that.
Okay. So we get through that first round. Obviously, right, we're a survivor, right?
Yes.
We kick cancers so and so,
Yes.
right? That first time. So from 14 to 15, you would say you kind of fought, right? And had the
Yeah.
surgeries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're on the other side of 15, right? You're living life now,
Yeah.
right? What was that like after, you beat cancer? Like what was life like, in terms of
So
school, hanging out?
it was still a transition because I mean, yep, we just went through this, but nothing is the same. My leg is not the same. My life is not the same. I'm on crutches. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like there's just still things that you cannot do. Like it's a new normal. There is no like snapping your fingers and you're back to where you
But
were
see,
before everything
but
happened.
see, I've seen some of those pictures of you, and we're going to have to show some of these pictures of you when you was on crutches, man. Like you was still bad though, man.
I
Like
mean,
you was still.
well, that was when I was older.
Hmm.
Like by the time I graduated high school, I wasn't on crutches anymore. But I went to my senior prom on crutches. Like
So
I was just determined to have a life. I don't know what normal is, but I was not going to like my milk was already spilled, so I couldn't cry about it.
got
You
you.
know what I'm saying? So I
Got
made
you.
the best of everything. I attended all my like senior events.
So that 1 year of fighting chemo, I mean, of fighting cancer, put you on crutches throughout the rest of your school career. So, wow.
Because different things would happen
So
like
no, so no running around with other kids like in the neighborhood.
no.
Probably wasn't riding no bikes or nothing like that.
Um After that, no. And then, like my mama done was so scared for me to do anything. I
Mm,
mean, because at that point, like, I mean, you're dealing with a lot of equipment,
right.
in this leg. And like if something happened, it wasn't like you get a cast and let it heal for 6 weeks. It was like surgery every time.
So like in this leg right now, what do you have?
So I have a new knee that I got in December 2019. I
That was your
have
second knee replacement.
That was my second knee replacement. Yeah, I have pins and needles and rods and the
So so we're diagnosed again at the age of 19, right?
yes at 19.
And what type of cancer is that?
So at 19, it was actually a metastasis from the
And
osteosarcoma.
what does that mean?
So the metastasis is just that type of cancer has spread to another part,
Okay.
which the lungs are the most current place, the most consistent place, I guess, that type of cancer would
Spread to.
reoccur. Yep, if it came back, it would consistently be the lungs.
Okay, so at 19, now how did that happen? Like were you feeling bad? Like I mean like how did that diagnosis occur?
So I actually did not have any symptoms at all. So I'm 19. This is freshman year of college. This is Christmas break.
Okay.
But I did have I had a little sore on my leg
Mhm.
that had started to like pus a little
Okay.
bit. And so by that time I probably was scared to tell my mom because nothing is ever simple, right? It's always like a production. So because I had this sore, cause I
Now
was
how long did it take you from the time you noticed the sore until you did tell your mom about it?
I don't remember all the way. I don't think that it was there like a long time before I went home for
Mhm.
break. But when I went home, I did have doctor's appointment scheduled already. So I went to my orthopedic doctor, my surgeon, shout out Dr. Temple.
Okay.
And when I went back to him, they tested the pus or whatever that was coming out, and it was an infection. So because the allograft is what they call it, like the stuff that they put in there,
Mhm.
my allograft was infected. So that meant that they had to do surgery to open it up. The plan was open up the site, remove everything that they had put in there, um, put what's called a cement spacer. So it's not an actual bone, so it's not gonna fuse, it's not gonna heal together, but it will hold the place of where the bone would go back in.
Got you.
So the plan was to go inside, clean out as much as they could, put the cement spacer in there, close everything back up, run some antibiotics, and then go
Put
back
everything
in and
back.
put everything back. So before you have any type of surgery, of course, you got to do labs for pre-op and you got to do a chest x-ray. They got to make sure that your lungs are healthy enough to withstand the anesthesia.
Got you.
So in the pre-op process, the chest x-ray, they saw a spot on my right lung. They say, hey, we don't know what this is. We're going to do the surgery to take everything out. We're going to put the spacer in there. But after surgery, you need to get that checked out with your oncologist.
Mm.
So I go back to oncology. They do some more tests, and it is cancer. So at this point, I'm quite devastated.
Wow.
I'm not the same
14-year
14
old.
year old, don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like naive about life. At this point, I'm 19. I'm a freshman in college. I feel like, my life is just kind of, starting to get some type of normalcy. It was already enough that I had to have the surgery to, take everything out and put everything back, because by this point I was no longer on crutches, like I'm walking by myself. But with the spacer, now you got to go back to crutches.
Because you
Um,
got to give your body some time to
because
heal.
you have to give your body time to heal. My hair had grown back. It probably was about, probably like right hitting my neck.
Your hair was in your neck?
I had let my hair grow out
Go
because I ain't
ahead
had
now.
none for a long time. So I was
Go
like,
ahead
yeah, I'm gonna need
now.
this right here. So I had let my hair grow out. I think I think if I'm remembering correctly, I had colored it. Like I had some highlights in it, and I was super devastated because at 19, I knew what that looked like. I knew what the treatment and all of that stuff looked like. I still never took it as a death sentence, but I knew what I was in for.
You never took it as a death sentence, but you knew that it was time to fight again.
And I did not want to. And, basically they told me that, I would have to have chemo again, and then you have to have surgery, and then you have to have chemo again. And I could just remember like crying, 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 telling my mom that I didn't want my hair to come out, that I did not want to do this process all over again, that I was not going to do this process all over again. Like, I'm not doing it. I don't care what y'all say. Like, I'm not doing it.
So so how did you go from I'm not doing this again because well, and if you didn't do the treatment again, then it's kind of like accepting death, right? I mean,
Basically.
I don't think that people just live with cancer without getting it treated, right? At some point, the
Right.
cancer kind of wins, right?
Right.
So how did you go from I'm not doing this, forget y'all, forget, the the oncology team, whatever. How did you go from that to okay, like let's go?
I mean, just my mom, like, really talking to me, and I guess like bringing me back to reality.
Hmm.
It's kind of like,
Do you remember what she said to you?
I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was just kind of like, are you just gonna give up? Are you giving up, basically?
Wow.
Because if I didn't go through the treatment, then that's what it is. So, basically it was like, am I about to give up? And, of course that she's there. Man, shout out to my mom because she was always there, you know.
Shout out to
Shout
mom.
out to my mom, my aunties and my grandma. Like that was my rock. Those are my
That was your
foundation.
crew.
Yep, that was my crew. So like the first time that I had chemo and the second time, even at 19, like they made sure that I never stayed in the hospital by myself.
Wow.
You
Somebody was
know,
always with you.
somebody was always with me. And for the times that, nobody may have been there physically, my mom taught me how to advocate for myself.
So what does that look like advocating for yourself? Because I mean, just listening to you right now, it sounds like you definitely remember a lot about the procedures and the processes, the drugs and all of that stuff, right? So for the person that's out there right now, whether young or old, that's going through this at this present moment, like what does advocating for yourself look like?
So advocating for yourself, for me was like asking questions,
Hmm.
like understanding what my therapy was. So like I knew when I got ready to check in, like I knew what medication I was supposed to have, and I knew how long it was supposed to run. And I know what time it should go up, and I know what time it should come down, and I know the medicine that they need to give me afterwards to, what I'm saying. I know that if I'm feeling nauseous, I can ask for Zofran, right,
Got
for my
you.
stomach. It was just knowing that I did not have to be uncomfortable in that process, and that it was okay for me to ask questions. It was knowing that if I didn't like the way the nurse was handling me, oh, I'm asking for somebody else.
Wow.
I'm I'm asking for the charge nurse. And I had some favorite nurses,
Hmm.
but they can't work 24/7. But I was definitely okay with asking for the charge nurse. I was definitely that person that was well abreast of the medications that I was supposed to have, like
The time you
the
were supposed to have
time,
them.
the side effects, yeah, all of that. Like
Wow.
I knew, when it was time to go to the clinic, like I knew what we were doing when we got there.
Why is that so important to really be, I guess, involved in your own healthcare and to ask questions? Because a lot of people don't really ask questions. You just go and whatever they tell you is what it is.
I mean, you just want to have an understanding of what's going on.
Mm,
Like I feel like me asking questions and understanding like gave me a sense of empowerment.
got you.
I'm going through this, but this is not it's not gonna go through me, basically. You know what I'm
Got
saying?
you.
Like it was still a form of, I mean, I want to say like having control, but it is my body, it is my life. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So if something didn't feel right, like say that. I remember this was kind of later on, but I remember going to the clinic one day, and I had to get I think they had drew blood, and then they had to flush my line. So I'm the person that know the process. I know the sterile procedure. I know that you ain't put them gloves on right, or like you didn't like wear your gown there, wear your mask. Like I know the sterile procedure. When he drew my blood and then he pushed it back in there, like I knew that that wasn't right. And I said something to one of the other nurse, actually whoever, I remember this guy, but then I asked for the charge nurse. Like I
Wow.
asked for a different nurse because I don't like how he moving. You know what I'm saying? Like if he ain't come to work and he ain't feel like it today, I'm not the patient for you. So
Wow.
yeah.
So at 19, you were in there like, yo, I done been here before. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this a little bit when it comes to
Yes.
the procedures and things like that. And you're not just accepting anything.
Absolutely not. And you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? Like you are, I mean, the nurses and the staff, like as amazing as they are, they have a job to do. And I think that sometimes people go into the medical field for the wrong reasons. So they can forget that they're dealing with a human on the other end.
Mm.
And it is okay to remind them, that like I'm a person, I'm not a chart number, I'm a person.
Wow. Now, I'm going to tell you because my dad has been back and forth to the hospital a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and he has the same sentiment. He feels
Yeah.
like the medical system
Yeah.
is not about the patients today, but
Absolutely.
about that money. And a lot
Absolutely.
of people that are going into the medical field are going there for the money and not for the health care.
Yeah, like I've had, the team will come around in the morning or whatever, and then you have the residents coming through, and they're waking you up super early, like they ain't saying their name or nothing. I'm like, I'm sorry, who are you?
Right.
Like, no,
Introduce yourself.
yes, I'm still a person. You walk in somebody's room, you greet them, and you know what I'm saying, you introduce yourself.
So how different was this battle at 19 than what it was at 14?
So some of the drugs were the same. The treatment was a little less aggressive because they caught the tumor like so early.
Hmm.
So the treatment was a little bit less aggressive. But the plan was still the same. It was still chemo. I mean, like I've never had a easy form of chemo. You know, all the drugs that I've had have been really harsh. So those are the ones that make you lose weight. They make you want to throw up.
Vomit.
Like they make, the vomiting, the nausea. They
Probably got to
all
have
make
some blood
you lose your hair.
transfusions.
Yeah, I mean, like it's essentially tearing your system down. Like you're at your lowest point, like body and health wise, when you're on chemo.
So was the treatment as long the second time?
So the whole process was still about a year long.
Wow.
Yeah, it was still about a year long because of course, you gotta do your chemo first to shrink the tumor as much as possible.
Hmm.
And then you transition into your surgery. Um, and then surgery was, inpatient. You got the chest tube, you gotta build your lungs, back up. So the whole process altogether was still about a year.
So they removed this tumor from your lung,
Uh huh.
right? Did they take some of your lung with
They
it?
did. So they call it a partial lobectomy,
Mm-hmm.
where they just took a small piece of my lung where the tumor was. So that was in my right lung.
Okay. So we get through that,
Yes.
right? Like a champ.
Like a champ.
Something like that, right?
Something like that.
Right. We're on the other side. So we're 20 now.
Yes.
Okay. What is life? I mean, like, what is your thought process? What is your outlook on life after battling cancer twice now at 20? Like, I mean, that has to leave in a
Well, I think that that may have definitely opened up some of that fearlessness in
mm-hmm.
myself, some of that impulsiveness, because I moved away for a little while after
Okay.
that. I'm trying to think how old I was. I don't really remember how old I was, but this is in 2002. So I guess I was like 21, 22, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, that was in 2004, I think. I think I stayed around for a little bit. I kind of went back, tried to finish school. I did end up just going back to Miami-Dade College there in
Okay.
Miami. I got my Associate of Arts in Public Administration.
Okay.
Didn't really know what I wanted to do with that. Did a little bit of different stuff. I worked on some campaigns and stuff, with my auntie. She's in the grassroots kind of stuff. So we did a lot of get out the vote stuff. I went to Iowa for 6 months
Okay.
and worked on a campaign in Iowa. It was the governor's campaign at the time.
Now, and I know somewhere in between all of that, you also had a love life,
Something like
something
that.
like that, right? How was that? I mean, considering, what you've gone through, you kind of got some scarring and, some things like that going on. Like, how was that like kind of transitioning from, I guess, being a girl on crutches,
hmm
all throughout high school, to now kind of trying to date and stuff like that, right?
So that was interesting because I probably dealt with some people that I shouldn't have dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just to be honest, just in situationships, right, that
Mm-hmm.
I had no business in. But I think it was more so just kind of trying to find myself,
Got you.
because again, like this is something that I had really been dealing with from 14 to like on the other side of 20.
Got you.
So that's like my adolescent and young adult life. So I didn't have that, boyfriend and girlfriend type of thing in middle school and stuff like that. So, um, just probably put me in positions where I naive,
Mm-hmm.
so definitely got taken advantage of, during that time. But I learned.
You learn.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're going to kind of fast forward a little bit, right? So from let's say 20 to 24,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
This was the 4 or 5 years before we
Before we
met,
met,
right?
okay.
You kind of did some things. You mentioned the grassroots. You went to
Yep.
Iowa. We're just really trying to figure out.
I went to
You
Missouri.
went to Missouri. How was that
So my auntie moved to Missouri, and I was just kind of feeling like I didn't have much going on
in Miami?
in Miami. Like I wasn't working. I don't think I was in school at that point. I don't know if I had grad. I guess I had finished at Miami Dade by then. And she had an opportunity to move to Missouri, and she said that I could go if I wanted to. So I
Okay,
was like, bet.
let's go.
So my goal was to go to school in Missouri for I don't know what, because I had applied for some jobs before I left, but I hadn't heard anything. So I remember I had applied for police dispatcher
Mm-hmm.
with city no Miami-Dade County Police. I applied for the police dispatcher, and then I had put in an application for Jackson Memorial Hospital,
Okay,
and I hadn't heard anything back from either of those, so I left.
you was out.
I was gone.
Headed to
Deuces,
Missouri,
right?
baby,
Yeah, like
with your boy Nelly out there.
woman boy Nelly, right? Um, so I'm trying to remember how did I get out there? Cause I think I put my car. on the auto transport. Like, she told me whatever I wanted to bring, just take it to her house, because she had movers taking her. Shout out to my auntie Dottie. She had movers taking them, you know what I'm saying, relocating her family. So whatever I wanted to take, just take it to her house. So that's what I did. But of course, by the time I got there and before I could even get settled good, you know, the stuff started coming back in the mail. So I drove from Missouri back to Miami, and my interview was for the police dispatch. It was
Okay.
like the beginning stages or whatever. So that's what I originally went home for. But on my way home, Jackson called me for an interview as well.
Okay.
So I kind of did both of those interviews when I went home, and then I just never went back to Missouri because I started working at Jackson.
How did you decide to work at the hospital over dispatching?
Well, that was the process that moved the fastest.
Okay.
So I would have still been in the dispatching process, but I had already got
So
the
you would have
job
done
at Jackson.
whichever one paid you
I
first.
I would have done whichever one came through first. Yeah.
Man, shout out to Jackson for moving quickly and getting you
And putting us, get
expedited.
us
Because
connected, huh?
I don't know if we would have met if you was working at
We
if you was
probably
working at the
definitely would
dispatch.
have met. We
I
probably
don't know, man.
definitely would not
Hey,
have.
I would have seen you somewhere.
Maybe
You know what I'm
so.
saying? Hey, if it was meant to be, like I would have seen you somewhere
So shout out to JMH for making a love
for
connection.
making a love connection for sure. Right. So you come back, you're at Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Now you and I meet.
Yes.
Now, and you probably have been work. We probably have been work. How long have you been working at Jackson before we met?
Well, how long did we work there? Like after we got married?
I didn't work that long. I don't know.
So I think I worked there for a total of about 7 years.
Hmm.
So I may have been there for 4 or 5 years before I met you.
Before we
Maybe
met,
so. Yeah.
maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where things get,
Cause that thing was on. We had somebody had pressed fast forward when I met him, and that thing just went.
life went quick, right? Things,
Yes, things escalated quickly.
things really turned up, right? So I remember seeing you in a break room. I think that was the first time we ever
Right.
spoke
Yeah.
in a break room.
Yeah. So I was actually working overtime that night. That
You
was
working
not my shift.
overtime.
I was working OT, and I was in school. So maybe I wasn't finished at Miami Dade. Cause when I met you in a break room, I was in school and I was studying.
Right. I do remember you studying.
Hmm.
I think it was like maybe some math or something like that.
Probably so. Not my
'Cause
favorite
I think
subject.
I can remember us talking about it. So we talked for just a short period of time. I don't know, maybe like 5 minutes or so, like something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then I seen you again. Probably wasn't the same day, and it really could have been maybe some months after. Maybe I don't
So
even
I'm gonna tell you
know.
something that's funny about that night in the break room. And I guess I maybe felt like you was kind of flirting with me a little bit in the break room.
Hmm.
But I was like, but in that short amount of time, I knew that you had a young daughter.
Okay.
And in my head, I
In
was
your
like,
head.
he need to stop even trying to talk to me because he got that little old baby. Like, ain't nothing we about to do with that.
Ain't nothing we about to
Like,
do with
I
that.
ain't even signing up for that plan. I vividly remember that.
Wow. Now,
So I had already X'd him off because I knew that he had a small child. When I say small, like she was under the age of 1.
and what's interesting is that you asked me off, but at the time when I spoke to you that night, like I was not flirting. I was, hey
I don't
guys,
know what
check
had
this out.
happened.
It seemed like, today you really can't be nice, right?
Maybe that's what it is.
Without being flirtatious. I walked in the break room to get something out the vending machine.
He was
She
just
the
talking
only
a lot.
person. She's the only person in the
Maybe he was
break
just
room.
talking too much to me. Like, just, hey, how you doing?
I
And
sparked
keep
up
it
a
moving.
I mean, well, so
So don't be nice to nobody else because they're going to think you flirting. And then
people
I'm going to have
do
to interject.
people do
So
feel like you flirting.
don't be nice. Just
But
say hi and keep it
I'm
moving.
originally from Mississippi, and in Mississippi, hey, that Southern hospitality, you speak to people, right?
I'm from
You carry
Miami.
conversations,
You speak when spoken to and you keep it moving.
and you keep it moving. So, hey, I just did what I do. I seen her. Hey, how you doing? Hey, what you studying? Okay, cool. I probably asked her what she plan on doing with that or something like that. I mean, I got whatever I needed to get out the vending machine, and I was out. I don't even think I really thought anything else about that conversation at that time, right? and if my memory serves me correctly, we were both kind of in
Situationship. Well, you was in
situationship,
a relationship. I was
right?
in a situationship.
So I definitely wasn't thinking anything other than just, hey, ma'am, how you doing or whatever. Now I think maybe a a couple of weeks or maybe a month or so later, I seen you in the hallway walking with Kat,
Mm-hmm.
right? And hey, the relationship that now transitioned to a situationship. We ain't seeing eye to eye. We really going our, separate ways, right? And I must have been having a horrible day this day, and I thought to myself when I seen you, like, I was just, hey, I guess kind of take. I don't even know if I was thinking, let me take a shot or let me just say something silly to you. Hey, fellas, when you're young and dumb, I mean, you just say some stuff. So she's walking down the hallway. I never forget. I think you were wearing like some pink pants,
My favorite
um,
pink pants,
a gray and pink Guess
sweater.
sweater.
Yep.
I want to say like with some Guess shoes. Did you
No,
have
they were actually Skechers.
Skechers?
They was
Skechers.
pink with the little strap across. They had like a
Some pink
crisscross stripe.
Skechers,
Yeah.
right?
I thought I was doing it too,
No, you
y'all.
were doing it. Pants fitted.
Pleated down the front.
Fitted. Okay, they fitting. All right. So now I didn't know it at the time, but when I seen her, it you can tell something was, I guess, kind of off a little bit because to me it seemed like every time her right leg hit the ground, like them pink pants were just, they were just doing a dance. So I'm like,
Oh my
ooh,
god.
I done said something crazy to her. I done got up from my desk. Them pants was looking so good, right? I done got up from my desk.
I'm gonna buy me some more of them pink
Hey
pants.
man,
I
get some
remember
more of
where I
them
got
pants.
them from too. I'm gonna look for some more.
I done said something to her. She started laughing. I'm walking with her now. I don't even know what happened to Kat. I don't even know, where she went. But I can remember us hanging out at the by the fountain,
Yeah.
just kind of having conversations. I would walk you to your car sometimes,
Yeah.
and even at that moment, still, I don't think it wasn't like we were trying to be together because.
But I think that takes me back to what I said earlier. Like
Mhm,
in the beginning, like really and truly, and people probably don't believe this because it all happened so fast. But we were like platonic friends. But I
mhm,
felt like you were a gentleman and you really did care. Like once we started, excuse me, sitting by the fountain, like I worked 3 to 11. So he would walk me to my car to make sure that I, got to my car safely. And we were not dating or nothing at that time. So
right,
it was nothing for him to, gain. Like we wasn't talking about being together, nothing. So I think that just as that progressed, like I knew that you genuinely cared about me as a person. You know what I'm
right.
saying? And like you were a good person underneath it all.
Thank you, thank you. So it wasn't like you said. I mean, it wasn't anything about us trying to be together because I think at the
Mm-mm.
time you were in a relationship or something to that
A
effect as well.
situationship.
So we would spend a lot of time talking about that.
Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
situation, right? We would spend a lot of time. So in the beginning, it really was like, hey, let's see if we can help each other
Yeah.
in these relationships.
Yeah.
Really is what it was. And I think from that, we just became really good friends
Really fast.
really fast. So the relationships or the situation, however you choose to look at it, that we were in, both just naturally ended. Like I didn't end the
That was not well,
relationship
I wouldn't have ended mine, but
so her and I could be together, but you didn't end the relationship so we can be together.
I mean it was like it was a situation, so it was ending
It
anyway.
was ending anyway,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it just ended naturally,
Yeah.
right? And then we
But y'all know it's kind of like that back and forth thing, and like like the door was half open and half closed. So like when we decided that we would be serious, like I was intentional about closing that
terminating,
door.
closing that
Yeah,
door.
yeah,
Okay. I appreciate that too. Because I was definitely intentional.
yeah,
And so we kicked it for, we dated for 2.5 months,
yeah.
right? And
So I mean, so if memory serves me correctly, right, we probably started hanging out around the fountain like around January.
hmm
Like and even for that, it was kind of just hanging at the fountain for a minute. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? We officially started dating in May,
Okay.
and then
In
in
July,
July
we
we were
got married.
married.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Um, so life is completely different.
Life is completely
You
different.
you've gone from being single, hanging out, partying with your best friend, right?
Yep.
Shout out to Jade, you know,
My
doing
boo.
doing y'all thug thizzle.
Yeah, so when I came back from Iowa, I was real fat, y'all. Okay. I had gained like 40 pounds in Iowa.
And you lost all that weight inside
In the club.
iguanas and
In Bermuda. I did.
and
I ain't
Bermuda.
gonna lie.
Because when I met you, I don't know, I don't think that was. I mean,
So
there may have been a
that's
little
kind
fat
of
on you, but
probably why
good
I had to
fat.
get a knee replacement because I had done wore that other one out.
Hey guys,
Completely out.
look that knee, and I got it around the house somewhere. Like her old knee, that thing was bent probably
It
from all the
yeah.
twerking and stuff you had been doing,
Probably
right?
so. Back
But
then it was just booty shaking. It was not no twerking. It was just booty shaking.
it was booty
But yeah,
shaking.
I definitely had fun.
So look now. I mean, so we go from all of that. Now we're married. Not only are you married the guy that you said in the break
That I would
room you
not
had
marry
totally
because
xed
I
off
already know he got kids
because
and
he
no.
had one kid.
No, I knew you had two
You know,
kids.
I had two kids, right? So how was it going from? I mean, you know, and we're just going to touch on this really quick. How was it going from the single life, you know, just basically kind of you and your mom, right, to
Mm-hmm.
now being married? And it all did happen really fast. I mean, we got married, we moved in together, you changed your last name and everything. Like, we married, like for real, for real.
Yep.
How was that transition for you?
I thought I was ready, but I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I think I was still like very immature, and not like in a I still want a club type of way, but immature in as in like not I didn't have the like woman thoughts. You know what
I
I'm
got
saying?
you.
Like I didn't know how to be a wife. Um, I was still like very much so attached to my family, so I didn't know how to like cleave to my husband.
Got you.
And I know that that caused some issues early on in the marriage. Um, I didn't have boundaries with
Mm.
people. So that created issues as well. So, um, in my head, in my naivete, right, I thought it was just gonna be a smooth transition, but it wasn't because
I think we both did.
I was in the big leagues then.
I think we both did. But what I will say is that maybe with the same attitude and mindset you had towards fighting cancer, I think you had that same attitude and mindset towards fighting for our marriage and our family and
Hmm.
our friendship. And I greatly appreciate that too, right? So we're married for a few years, and then we're diagnosed with cancer again for the third time. At what age?
Um, I don't know how
I
old I
think you was
was.
like
In 2012, I was in my 30s.
31,
Yeah, I think I was like 31.
31 years old,
Hmm.
right? And at 31, now we're dealing with, and this is my first time,
Yep.
you know, being there with you, right? Fighting this disease,
Yeah.
and you had a soft tissue sarcoma,
Yes.
right, in your left leg,
And my hamstring.
in your
Yes.
hamstring,
Yes.
right? So I could remember this very clearly because we were playing one night, right, just having some fun, and I thought maybe we had played a little too hard
Mm.
because then she maybe the next day or the day after or so like that she was complaining about you know this discomfort in her leg.
Mm.
So in my mind, I thought that you just probably pulled a hamstring or something like
Pull the
that.
muscle,
Yeah,
right?
pulled a muscle. But then it got to a point to where you were having a hard time sitting on the toilet seat. I think was
Yes.
really painful.
Sitting on anything was painful.
And then I took a look at it, and there was definitely like
A lump.
a lump there, and we noticed that the lump was getting
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
So at that point, you decide.
So actually, and I'm not even sure like how long it had been going on. But I know that I was experiencing some discomfort,
Mm-hmm.
but it just kind of was getting worse and worse to the point where like I could not sit flat on my bottom. Every time I sat down, I would have to kind of like put my foot under my other leg to kind of create that space between
Right.
my leg. And I can remember going checking myself. I was at work one night, and it was hurting real bad. So I can remember checking myself in to the emergency room, and I went in the bed. I think I went to ERC maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and they did X-rays, and they didn't see anything on the X-ray. So they told me that, maybe I had pulled a muscle or
I remember
whatever.
that.
Yep. So it was just kind of like, hey, just maybe you pulled a muscle, just kind of relax or whatever. And at this time, I was going to my, I was still doing my follow ups, but I'm at like once a year at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't seen my oncologist. I'm not thinking it's a need to go to the oncologist. And it never crossed my mind to go back to my orthopedic surgeon either. So I was waiting for my doctor to come back in town because she had been out for a while. So I was like, well, just as soon as she come back, I'll go see her, my primary doctor, because she know me, like she already know my history. So I just wanted to deal with someone that I knew, and she wasn't coming back. So I went to her office and saw whoever was covering for her,
Mm-hmm.
and I was explaining to him, what I'm saying, the issue and stuff. And he was like, well, I really don't know what that is. Like, it's nothing on the x-ray. So with your history, you may want to go back to your surgeon. So that's when I went back to Dr. Temple. And I remember leaving work one day. So this had to be March 2012.
Mm-hmm.
I remember leaving work, going to his clinic, and I was by myself that day. I guess, I don't know, you probably was at work, but I'm not thinking anything of it. So I go to his office, and at this point, I literally like could not sit down. Like every time I got to work, I had to sit um like this,
Mm.
or
To
like
keep
put
that pressure
something
off
under there,
your.
yep, to keep the pressure off my knees. So I went in his office that day, and they called me in the back, and he didn't do an x-ray though, he did an ultrasound. So he brought the ultrasound machine in there, and it was painful, even him just rubbing the scope over the ultrasound. And so he could see on the ultrasound this huge mass, because at this time it was visibly protruding, through the
Yeah.
back of my skin. And you had told me, like, sweetheart, you really need to go get it looked out, because it looked like it's getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So this had been over the span of a couple months now. So he's like, well, we need to do a biopsy so we can know what it is. And I'm like, okay. So every biopsy that I've ever had, they schedule surgery, and then you go in and have surgery. So I'm like, okay. So, just go ahead and schedule it, and, I'll come back and I'll do the biopsy. And he's like, no, we're going to do it now.
Wow.
And I'm like, excuse me? So he put some numbing cream on there, and he got this big needle, and he did a needle biopsy right in the clinic, and they call it aspirating. So he went in and pulled a sample out. And then after that, I could literally not sit down anymore, because that just agitated it, and it was so painful. I never went back to work after that. That was my last day at work.
Really?
I never went back to work after that. I could not
Wow.
sit down.
Wow.
So I originally just took a leave of absence, like FMLA.
So he does a biopsy. How long does it take before they call you back?
He called me back probably about a week later.
Mm-hmm.
He called me back probably about a week later, and I remember, excuse me, I'm not sure where we were, but I feel like I could remember sitting in the car and getting a phone call of him telling me what it was. And I could hear the
Disappointment.
despair and the
Yeah.
disappointment in his voice, because again, this has been my surgeon for, this is a person that have watched me grow up essentially. Because I met him when I was 15, 16 years old, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So yeah, it was soft tissue sarcoma, right? They called it mixofibrosarcoma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was in the hamstring, and of course, there has to be chemotherapy and there has to be surgery.
So, like getting that call now for the third time, you're grown, right? You're married.
I got a whole husband.
We done had another child,
I got 3 whole kids.
right?
I got a whole family, whole life, whole career.
And we get the phone call for the third time, you're gonna have to fight this.
Yep.
What headspace are you in?
Um, at that point, I felt like I really didn't have a choice because I had so much to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm more, mature now. Like, I know what I'm in for. But I think at that point, I was more back to my 14-year-old self. Like, what do I need to do to fix it? You know what I'm saying? Like, how fast can we get it going so I can get over it, basically?
Right. So now, and this is, something kind of completely because you never had this before,
No,
right? I guess you
right.
never had any of it before, right? But completely different
Yes.
cancer.
So this is um, so the first 2 times were the same types of cancer.
Hmm.
So the third time was a completely different
Completely different
cancer.
cancer.
Yes. Yes.
Completely different rare cancer,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So now I can remember you going to what was the doctor's name there at
Dr. Trent?
Sylvester? No, not Dr. Trent. The guy that actually did the surgery. No, no, no.
Dr. Kaish.
Dr.
No.
Kaj.
Dr. Temple did the surgery,
Uh-huh.
but Dr. Kaish was the
The
radiation
radiation.
oncologist, I guess. But he did the radiation, but it was in like the traditional radiation, and this was after surgery. But he
Hmm.
did something called brachytherapy.
Right, where he stuck like some tubes at the site
Yes.
with the
So,
radiation.
so during surgery, so like after they did the surgery to remove the tumor, um, he was there with the surgeon, and basically he implanted these catheters in the back of my leg, and we got a picture. I'm sure we have a picture of it we could put up. So it was probably maybe 30 something catheters
Hmm.
down the back of my leg where the surgical site was, and the premises was to radiate just that site
Mm.
twice a day for 5 days immediately after surgery.
So we go through that. Now I can remember thinking when they said she was gonna have to have a hamstring removed. I'm like, a hamstring? Like I'm thinking there's only one hamstring there. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
like,
pretty sure everybody thinking
like
there's
how
only
you
one.
like how's she gonna walk without a hamstring?
Right.
And the doctor was like, don't worry, there's 4 hamstrings there. We're just gonna take out one. I'm like,
And we have a picture of that as well. I do have a picture of the hamstring that
you
they
got a
took
picture of
out.
the actual
I
hamstring?
have a picture of it. I don't know why, but I do have a picture of it.
Wow,
It's
wow.
crazy.
So so you go through the radiation, you go through the chemotherapy, then remove the hamstring,
Chemo
etc.
first,
Chemo.
then radiation, then chemo. Did I do more chemo afterwards?
At what point did you do the surgery?
Oh,
Re-
chemo, surgery,
Surgery,
radiation,
right?
chemo. Yeah.
Chemo. Now I can remember thinking because I mean life is kind of crazy at this point. I mean by now I want to say were we running a business at this point too?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It probably was like the next year after that.
Okay. So, I'm really at this time I'm really into cycling, and it seems like whenever I take up a new hobby, my wife wants to take up the hobby too. So I can't just buy one; I got to get two, right? So I done gone and bought a bike, and she's like, "Well, hey, I want a bike too." So now we both have bikes, and
Nah, no, okay. He's saying bikes and he's using that real loose. We talking about road bike, like the ones that Lance Armstrong them be on with them little skinny tires. Them the kind of bikes we talking about. We not talking about the bikes that came out of Walmart and Target. Okay, no, we talking about bikes, bikes.
so we done had to get her a bike too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this thing in Miami called Critical Mass where the last Friday of every month, you got a group of cyclists, maybe 2 to 3 thousand people
Yes.
meet up
A lot
downtown
of people.
Miami, and we do a little bike ride. So,
Ain't no little bike ride.
well, I mean, it's
He putting little on it. Ain't no
it
little
it
bike
it can
ride.
be 12 to maybe 21 miles. I think the longest was ever like
On a
21 miles.
bicycle
So
through the streets of Miami. That is not little.
this girl says, "Hey, I'm gonna do the critical mass too." And in my mind, I'm like, "Yo, you just had a hamstring removed, like."
What was the time frame that I
Yo,
did that?
I think that you were still going through treatment.
No, I wasn't. I had a little bit of hair. I had a little bit
You
of hair.
sure?
Yeah.
Then if you weren't still going through some treatment,
I
then it
probably
must
had
have been
just
like
finished.
just finished. Cause
Maybe
I
so.
remember thinking to myself like, she's crazy.
A little bit. I'm realizing that I'm kind of impulsive.
So she wants to go on this bike ride. I'm like, okay, and we're doing it. Like we're out there, uh,
Cause he ain't
this
have
crowd
sense
of
enough to tell me
people.
no, go sit down somewhere.
We're riding the bike, and what happened?
We was all the way in the back, but we was out there.
You get tired, but you
Yeah.
probably did about half of the ride though.
Yeah.
She,
I
look, I
had
mean, but
tapped
think
out.
about it though. I mean, you do half of the ride. Body just got finished being beat up by chemo, radiation. You just had a doggone hamstring removed, and your Lance Armstronging it now through the city of Miami,
Yeah.
right, on these bikes. But so we didn't finish the
We
entire
got
ride.
left behind. All I could think of is where is the Metro Rail station? If I could make it to the Metro Rail station, I know I could catch a train back to my car. And that's what we did.
That's exactly what we did. So we make it back home, right? Um, so we beat cancer again for the third time.
For the third time. Yay,
And,
yay.
and I'm sure, like, I mean, this is it. Like, I mean, like we should never have to deal with this ever again.
Yep.
And you have a metathesis, a metathesis,
Metastasis. Yep.
right? And
Yep.
that's just basically when the cancer again moves to
Spreads. Yep.
spread to another part of the body. And it just so happens that I guess sarcomas just kind of show
Yes.
back up in your lungs,
Yes.
right? So how long have we been cancer free before we're diagnosed for the
2
fourth
years.
time? So
Oh, before the
for
third time?
before the fourth time,
2 years.
2 years,
Mhm.
right? So we go 2 years cancer free,
Mhm.
right? Where we just probably a routine checkup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, and let me just say this, man. Like, this girl is a lot tougher than I was. Cause I think that third time, I just, I'm scared out of my mind. I think even today, I still kind of suffer a little bit from PTSD. All right, um, every little thing, like I don't even know if you notice this or not, but even sometimes, like when we're together and I'm like, rubbing you, I am secretly rubbing
Trying
to
to
make
find
sure
stuff.
there's nothing there. And if I feel something, like I'll kind of
You be
like,
like, what is that? No, I've
you know what I'm
definitely
saying?
noticed
Like,
that.
I mean, I'm just, I don't know, man. Like, I have a fear of losing my best friend, right? Um, so I definitely, I don't know if I was as tough as she was. I mean, I definitely cried. It was a very tough time for me trying to figure out like what's going on, and
Right.
just kind of being a part of that journey now as well.
But I will say that at that point, I think that going through treatment was a little bit easier.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't a adolescent, a pediatric anymore, so I had to go to the adult side. Cause even at 19, they still
Treated
allowed
you as
me
a
to be
pediatric.
with the pediatrics. Yes, cause they had just known me for so long. So at 31, um, it was a little different because treatment wasn't inpatient; it was outpatient. So, I was able to go for, a day or 2 days or whatever, and, get your treatment and then go home. So I was able to spend a lot more time still at home with the kids. Um, And I think that they were so young, like they probably don't even really realize what, you know what I'm
What's
saying,
taking
really and
place?
truly was going on. I mean, at that time, um, our youngest son, he's 13, he'll be 14, so he was like 3. So
Yeah.
he have no idea. Um, but it was different. But again, my mom, between my mom, my auntie, and of course you, I still never went through that process alone. Like
Right.
somebody still was always with me.
Absolutely. I mean, well, your family is still always as supportive as they've always been,
Absolutely.
and now you're married. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
okay. Um, so we're going through routine checkup, and they find another spot,
Yep.
biopsy again.
Yep.
Um, you get that phone call.
Yep.
Do you remember what that was like that fourth time?
I don't.
Hmm.
Um, by the fourth time, I felt like that this was not for me. Like, Lord, I don't know who you trying to get this message to, but I want them to get it. Okay. So I'm gonna get on this battlefield for you again, but I hope they get the message that you're trying to get them. You know, by the fourth time, I guess like I mean 3 times before, and not saying that it was easy by no means, but like God always pulled me through. So I knew that He wasn't going to bring me to another point that He wasn't gonna pull me through.
Wow.
So I knew that, of course, like it was something that we have to deal with, when you find out, you got to move quickly. Um, but I just, at some point, I felt like that going through that, especially the fourth time, I just feel like it wasn't for me. Like it was for somebody else.
I mean, but even with that, man, like, you know, and I've never recall you, questioning God. Like
Mm-mm,
it's never been a woe is me.
mm-mm.
Like you've taken this journey like a real soldier, like a.
I mean, because what else do you do? Like, you
I
know,
mean, I can think of a lot of things.
well, there's the saying like you never know how strong you have to be until like there's your only option. Like being strong is your only option.
Wow.
Like in that moment, what other option do I have than to fight? I mean, I have people that have been by my side every step of the way and they have fought, with me. So how selfish of me would it be to be like, nah, I ain't finna do this again. I'm just let it eat me up.
Wow.
I mean, like there is no other choice in the matter other than to fight, to give it all I got.
So at this point now, I think the fourth diagnosis probably came at around the age of what?
So I was about 33.
33,
Yep.
right? So we have this fourth fight. We come out victorious again because God is just that great, right?
Amazing.
Um, Let me ask you, like, what are the after effects, like the effects of all of the surgeries, all of the chemos? I mean, just looking at you,
Hmm.
I mean, if anybody just walked in here and just seen, like, nobody would think that you've gone through so much, especially, with the jeans on, you can't see the scars and
Well,
stuff like
thank
that.
God I don't look like what I've been through.
What have the side effects of all of the chemo and the surgeries and stuff? I mean, like, what is life like after that fight,
So,
those fights?
so like, I guess I'll just start from the head down, maybe. um, so one of the medications that I was on, adriamycin, affects your hearing.
Okay.
So I have permanent hearing damage, right? Hearing loss. I cannot hear very high pitched sounds. And I have tinnitus. Like I have a consistent, always there, never go nowhere ringing in my ear. Right. Um, it severely affected my teeth and the bones in my mouth. So I've had to have dental work done because I had a loose tooth. Like right in the front, I had a loose tooth, and there was no like implant I couldn't get an implant because just my bones in my mouth were just
So
too weak.
yeah.
Yeah. So it, affected the bone, my teeth. So I did have to have some dental work done because of that. Because remember, when I started at 19, I had braces. So it was a consistent put the braces on, take the braces off, put the braces on, take the braces off.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point I was just like, forget it.
Because when we met, you had
Because
braces,
when we met, I had braces. Yep. Um,
and you probably have had these braces since you were.
so at that time, yeah, I probably had them for a minute.
But I'm saying, but when you first got braces, how old were you?
I was like 13, 14.
So yeah, man. I mean, that's a long time.
Now I had a lot of teeth pulled before I got the braces.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a whole situation. I only had one canine tooth. So yeah, my teeth, my mouth was definitely damaged. My skin is like my hands and my feet are forever dry. So I'm always trying to find whatever I can to keep them moisturized. From the very first surgery that I had when I was 14 years old, 15, they asked my mom, did she want them to go into my left leg and stop the growth?
Right.
Because I was an adolescent, and she asked me and I said no, because I don't know, somebody told me like, she probably not gonna grow much more or whatever, but I kept growing. So I had about a 2-inch difference between my left and my right leg, which is why the booty was jiggling like that in them pink pants.
The booty was jiggling. I was trying
Now,
to be nice about it, right? When I just said I like
but
the pink pants,
that's
but
what it was.
it was a booty meat.
But we've adjusted some of that with the last knee replacement that I had in 2019. Like, there was a slight adjustment there, but there is still a length discrepancy. And then of course, from the surgery in my hamstring and the radiation, it was really close to that sciatic nerve. So I have nerve damage that travels down to my foot. So like, some people have sciatic pain and make their back hurt. Like, mine is in my left foot, like really, really bad. It is a constant numbness and tingling. Like, I have to be careful of the type of shoes that I wear, because I could be walking and my shoe can be 10 steps back.
Wow.
So a lot of times when you see me, I probably have on like some type of tennis shoe or some type of closed in shoe. That's to give me just some support on my foot, and also to put my lift inside of, because I do have like a small lift that I wear inside of my shoe.
Okay. Have you felt like the drugs that you've taken have affected your mental?
I do feel like with so much chemo, I do feel like sometimes there is a fall. Like they call it chemo brain. Like, you have pregnancy brain, like you can have chemo brain. So I do feel like, that has affected um some things. Like, it's affected me somewhat, but I try to, stay mentally stimulated. So I think I'm doing pretty good.
So, Felicia, let me ask you.
Hey, don't start that. Them people is cross the street.
We have a four-legged.
Go ahead on.
Um,
Hey, bye. No, don't come over here. Bye. Sit. Lay down. Lay down.
he want to be hard-headed. Um, kind of threw me off a little
I'm
bit.
sorry.
That's okay.
You was asking me about my mental cognition.
Okay, I absolutely was. So now here's what's amazing though, because you've gone through a lot of drugs, a lot of chemo, and
A lot of drugs,
and
meaning chemo.
you're still like super sharp though, right? Like I mean, like you're still super sharp. I mean,
Well, I've always been studious.
Okay.
That's just a personality trait of
And
mine.
then I'm
I've
sure,
always been studious.
graduating top 10%, you know
That's
what I'm
just
saying,
all I'm
probably helps
saying.
a
That's
little
all
bit,
I'm
right?
saying.
So, I mean, we've gone through a lot, right?
We absolutely have.
Let me ask you, what do you think makes you so tough?
God.
Okay.
I think that God made me this way. I think that He knew that somebody needed my light,
Mm-hmm.
and He tested me to make sure that that light was going to continue to shine.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. So, with that light, what are we doing today?
So today we are teaching.
Okay.
Right. So I think that teaching is something that has always been near and dear to my heart. My mom don't tell these stories, right? I don't know how true it is. You have to fact check with her. But she said that I've always been teaching, and that when I was younger, I used to like walk around, to the adults and tell them, say your ABCs. And if they
Mm.
don't say it right, they mess it up. I slap them on their hand with the ruler. Back in the day, that you can get punished in school and stuff. You can't do that now. Don't put your hand on these people, kids today. But teaching has always been a passion of mine. When I went to Florida State, I actually went for nursing
Okay.
because you know I
For
I really
obvious
do
reasons, I
care.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at some point, I met a nurse practitioner that basically was like, you can teach one level below whatever degree that you have. So in my head, I was going to go back to school and get a nursing degree so that I could teach nursing, because I
Okay.
knew that I would not physically be able to like go through the program, like the standing, the walking, and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So that was my goal to do, to be a nurse educator, like be a teacher.
Okay.
And that didn't quite pan out. We went into entrepreneurship during that chemotherapy journey. We didn't really talk about that. But today, I teach people about money actually.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I have
That's big time.
my life license was the first license that I got to kind of introduce me to money and financial literacy. And then I went forward and I got my investment licenses. So I have a Series 6, a Series 63, and a Series 26.
Okay. That's what's up. Now, do you plan on getting any more licenses?
I am studying
Mm-hmm.
for mortgage loan originator
Okay.
license, and probably a couple other things I'll do as well.
Okay. Now, outside of what you do, like from the realm of teaching and the financial literacy piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that more at a later date.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, like, what are you doing that's connected to like the journey that you've been on?
So that is definitely where the book comes in,
Mm-hmm.
because at some point this whole thing was not for me. It was for somebody else. So that's where the book comes in to just offer, encouragement, and not only to the person that's going through the cancer, but to
Mm-hmm.
also the family members. Because when one person is affected, like it may be me physically, but my mom, my auntie, my grandma, my sister, my husband, went through everything with me emotionally, financially, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So it affects the whole family. So that's definitely what the book is for. And then the nonprofit. I just want to be of service and be able to give back to those families again that are affected by childhood cancer.
And what's the name of your nonprofit that you're starting?
Can't steal my joy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that. How did that, kind of.
Um, so I came up with that name because a very good friend of the family, shout out to Jordan, was actually diagnosed with the same type of cancer that I had.
Hmm.
So this is when we were living in Mississippi. Jordan was probably like 15 at the time. Um, Same osteosarcoma, same right leg. By the time they did catch her, though, it was already in her lung, so she had the metastasis already.
Mm.
So Joy is kind of short for Jordan, and it was, I mean, like, it was so emotional because it just kind of brought back, it just brought me back to my 14-year-old self,
Got you.
and I wasn't like as hands on as I would have liked to be because it was during the pandemic.
Right.
But that's really what sparked that idea, is because I don't believe in coincidences. So I believe that, I was there at that time making a connection with her and her family for a reason. Today she's doing amazing, right? I'm trying to figure out who the girl is because she's just blossomed, right? She's in 11th grade. She just went to prom and she's living her best life. Now, Jordan did have to get an amputation, but she's so graceful with it, and she definitely reminds me of myself.
Yeah. I would say that too. Like, when, we've been around her and just kind of hearing her talk and the posts that, I see on social media, like,
Yes, full of
she's
life.
full of life,
Like,
very vibrant.
yes,
And she does
absolutely.
kind of put me in a mind of
Absolutely.
what you probably were like
Absolutely.
when you were her age. So look, before we close, what would you like to say to the people, whether young or old, that was just diagnosed with cancer? What would you like to say to them?
I would like you guys to know that it doesn't matter what the doctors say.
Hmm.
Um, it matters what's in your heart and what you believe. You know, I feel like a large part of healing comes from within, right? It comes from faith, and it comes from, what I'm saying, having the right people around you to support you. So, this is not a death sentence, it's just an opportunity for God to use you, really and truly. And keep the faith up and be your own advocate. Ask questions, ask the tough questions. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help and more help and another nurse because it's your body, like, you're a human. But yeah, like, be tough, and I love you.
Wow. And look, we're going to be doing more. We're going to have more of these conversations around, cancer, because obviously it's affecting, millions of people,
Right,
right? Every day. And I don't think that there's enough of the survivor talk,
right.
right, out there, right? Like, what does it look like, the process, the after, can I still be, fly and doing, my thing and living life, to the fullest
Absolutely,
and
you
stuff like
can.
that. Absolutely. Now, one of the things we're going to do for those of you that have watched this that, would love to contribute and donate to Felicia's nonprofit organization, Can't Steal My Joy, there will be a GoFundMe link in the description, right? If you feel led to contribute to that cause, right, please do so. The link will be there. Um, the proceeds will be used to, inspire, encourage, and just help others,
Absolutely.
as they walk through the same journey that
Absolutely.
she's walked through, 4 times. Sweetheart, I will say that it has been an unbelievable journey, um, these past almost 16 years, right?
Almost.
And though every moment hasn't been the easiest, I
Mhm.
would easily do them again,
You're so
right? Well,
sweet.
I'm just being honest. I mean, the impact that you've left on my life has been, life changing, right?
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate you. I know that our children appreciate you. I know that your family and your friends really appreciate you. But I do believe that we have to give our loved ones their flowers while they're here,
Well, thank you.
right? So I give that to you, and I look forward to the amazing things that we're going to continue to do, and the amazing things that God is going to have us do and the
Yep.
impact that we're going to have in other people's lives because
Yep.
of the journey and the things that we've gone through, right? So this is, I believe, still kind of just the beginning. Though
This
we've
is
done a
still the
lot
tip of the
already,
iceberg.
it's still the tip, right?
It's still the tip.
Hey guys, look, I greatly appreciate y'all for, sitting here with us. And I know that this has been a long, long
Long.
show, but it's kind of hard to capture, you know, such an amazing story in such a short period of time, right? So you may pause this video and, come back to it later on. If you like, right, what we've discussed here, man, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone else that may be going through, some type of health, issue and
Issues.
challenge right
Yeah.
now, right? Whether it be cancer or anything else, right? Share this video with someone that may find it inspirational, that can, use it to kind of just get through whatever situation they're going through right
Even if you
now.
guys just have questions about, anything that we talked about, if you like advice, like if you're going through something right now and you want to know what you should be asking, your medical team, like hit us up.
Which reminds me, there's also going to be a link to Felicia's Cancer Survivor Facebook group in the description as well. If you are a survivor, right, and if you want to share your story, right, and you should share your story, man, click the link, join the group. Hey guys, look, this right here is our time. Man, we thank y'all so much for rocking with
Thank you
M5, the
guys.
Family Hustle. Again, I am Mr. M5, Mr. Motivated Financially Independent, right? You guys have heard from Mrs. M5 today.
You ain't come with the victorious entrepreneur part. I was
Motivated,
waiting.
financially independent, victorious entrepreneur.
Give it all to me now.
M5. Absolutely.
And you have heard from Mrs. M5. I appreciate you guys' time. And we love you. And we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Peace.